Hi folks, I hope you find these video tutorials useful. Use the comments box to give some feedback if you wish, or to suggest a future tutorial. You can maximize the screen with the bottom right button of the video and press the escape key on the top left of your keyboard to return to the normal screen. Don't forget you can pause the video with the button on the bottom left at any time. Try out what you've seen and then return to the video whenever you're ready. Take it easy and have fun. In this first Photoshop tutorial we're going to focus on the selection tools, for no other reason really than they are at the top of the tools palette. In the top left selection tools we have the rectangular marquee or rectangular selection tool, same thing. The little black arrow at the bottom right denotes that there are other tools beneath. In this case, the elliptical marquee tool, the single row marquee tool and the single column marquee tool. The little black rectangle shows you what tool is currently selected. If you click and hold the tool, this fly out menu, you can just choose a tool and that will be the one that's currently selected. We want to begin with the rectangular marquee tool. So let's go through the tools. I'm going to go to the File menu, File Open to open a new image. I'm going to select the blackboard image. I can double click on the image to open it quickly, or if I close it up again, I'll go File, Open. I can just select it with one click and choose Open. Same thing, same way, they both open the image. I shall maximize the image and I shall remember to unlock the background. When Photoshop opens an image, the background is usually locked, as you can see by this little lock icon. I think this is a sort of insurance policy really, to prevent some editing of the image. What I like to do though is to first unlock the image by double clicking on it and just clicking OK. The lock's gone away. And what I like to do is to duplicate this image, or duplicate this layer rather. This is a layer. I can right click and select duplicate, or you can go up to the layer menu and select duplicate there. Or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control J, which is what I'm going to do now. First select the layer, Control J to duplicate it. I can then turn off the visibility of this lower layer. I like to use this as a kind of insurance policy. Keep it as a backup. Keep this layer as a backup, just in case I mess up. Okay, so we have this image and I want to cut out this central black part of the image. So I have the rectangular selection tool selected. I'm going to click and drag. The best place would be to start where you want the selection to begin, which is about in this area. But you don't always start in the right place. If you start somewhere up here, for instance, and you start clicking and dragging, it's obviously not in the right place to start your selection. So what you can do is hold down the space bar and you can move the whole selection. And you can get the top left corner in the position that you want it. When you're happy, just let go of the space bar and continue dragging. You can constrain this selection to a square by holding down the shift key, and when you click it, or when you drag then, you have a perfect square. Let go of the shift key and you can drag it out to whatever shape you want. So we want to drag it to around about here, and when you're happy, just let go of the mouse and you have completed your selection. So now we have this selection. There are 2 or 3 ways that we could cut it out of this image. One is by going up to the edit menu and selecting edit, copy, and that copies that selection to the clipboard. Then we can go to File, New. These dimensions, the width 1964 pixels and the height 1220 pixels, Photoshop has taken these dimensions of the selection from the clipboard and ready to create a new image with those dimensions. So if I click OK, we've got a new image with those dimensions. So then I can go up to the edit menu and this time paste. That's one way to get the selection copied to a new image. But what I should do is to close that image, and I'll say no, I don't want to save it, and we're back to the original image. Another way would be to go up to the image menu and go to image, crop, and that will crop it to the selection. But if I undo that, if I go to edit, undo crop, and we're back to where we were, I could also use the keyboard shortcut Control J, and that puts the selection onto a new layer. So if I turn off the visibility of this layer, as you can see, this layer contains the selection. It's basically cut out the selection from that layer and put it on its own layer. Okay, so that's the rectangular selection tool. And just to finish off, this bar along here, the options on this bar change depending on what tool you choose. So we have the rectangular marquee tool selected. If we make a selection, at the moment we've got it on new selection, but if we click on this one we can add to the selection. So we can click and drag and we can add to that selection. If we click on this one, which is subtract from selection, we can click and drag and take away from that selection. The intersect with selection takes a little bit of getting used to, because it always seems to me to do the opposite of what you expect, but play around with it and you'll get used to it. I'll click and drag on here and try and guess what it's going to do. Yeah. It's not what I expected either, but you need to play around with that one. I will select, deselect, so the selection's gone away. This one here is a feather, and you can feather it by an amount. for instance, if I make that 10 pixels and then make a selection, you can see that it's slightly rounded edges. But what it's done is it's graduated the edges of that selection by 10 pixels. So it's not similar to before where it's like a cookie cutter where it cuts it out and it has a sharp edge all around. And this is much better to feather the selection. If you're going to copy, say, a person, you're going to cut out a person from an image and place them in another image, because with the graduated edge they will fit into that new image much better and it will seem much more realistic. I'll just copy that to try and show you the difference. I'll go edit, copy, and I've copied that selection. I'll make a new image. Again, it's taken the dimensions from the clipboard. I'll click OK. Now edit, paste. You can see there that the edges have been smoothed out so that it's not a sharp edge. I'll close that image because we don't really need that. I won't save it. I will go select, deselect. I'm going to change that back to 0. This one is, at the moment we're on normal selections. You can select by a fixed aspect ratio, and the aspect ratio on here is a ratio of 6 wide and 4 high. So if you click and drag, you will get that ratio of a selection. You can change it. I go select, deselect. We can make it 10 high, for instance. Now if we click and drag, as you can see, it's a ratio of 6 wide and 10 high. And we can go back to a fixed size. If I select, deselect, now when I just click, it's going to cut out a section 64 pixels by 64 pixels. Let's make that a bit bigger to make it a little bit more easier to understand. If we say 200, by 200, I'll deselect that selection we've got, and when I click now it's obviously bigger, and you can obviously type in any value you wish up there, as long as it's not bigger than the actual image itself, of course. And that is the rectangular selection. I think what I'll do is finish this video here, and I'll make a new video for the other selection tools so that we're dealing with it in bite-sized chunks, so to speak. But anyway, I hope you've found this first tutorial useful. Don't forget, any comments or any suggestions for a particular video on a topic that you'd like to see yourself, just fill out the comment box. See you soon.